I just want to let you know that today's episode is dedicated to Charlie Karp, guitarist, producer, songwriter. Charlie Karp, one of our former guests, episode 18. Go back and check it out. Charlie, unfortunately, is not doing very well. And according to some Facebook posts and whatnot, looks like he may not even pull through in the next couple of weeks. So, Charlie, we love you, and we're thinking about you. Here's to you, buddy.
What's happening, roadies? This is Bruce Dans.
This is Sarah Hike.
What's happening, roadies? This is Chris Wilson, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What's happening, roadies? Welcome back. Episode 126 for you this week. Our guest today is Mr. Chris Wilson, front of house engineer and the creator of the Beard Balm, and one of my sponsors, Mr. ShowPro Beard Co. We'll get to him in just a second. Yes, as you heard, today's episode is dedicated to Charlie Karp. And I just read this on Facebook before I started recording, and I wanted to take a sec and again just send our biggest heartfelt thoughts and prayers and love to Charlie. I hope you pull through this, man, and to your family and everybody. Again, if you do not know who Charlie Karp is, singer, songwriter, producer, guitarist for Mr. Buddy Miles when he was just a young 19 years old, I believe. Check it out. Episode 18 will give you all the info. Wrote songs for Joe Perry, worked with the band Ram Jam, an incredible life and a very, very sweet guy. And, you know, I just want to say doing the show has been so amazing. And when I get to go and sit with somebody, whether it's in their home or a recording studio or the bus or wherever it is, or even through a Skype call, you know, I get about an hour. I get 1 hour to bond with people that I don't really know and to find some common ground and to chat about their life and their work, and then it's over. Then the episode comes out and I'm on to the next one. And Charlie was early on in the podcast here. He was only episode 18 and he was very gracious, and we had a great chat. And it's just, I think he's the first one that we may lose from doing the show, and so it hits kind of close to home. And he was just a sweetheart of a guy. So, again, thoughts and prayers to Charlie and his family. I hope everything works out. So today's guest is Chris Wilson, live sound engineer, creator of ShowPro Beard Co, the all-natural beard balm solution, and the mastermind behind Wilson Design Labs, manufacturing his very own resonant audio speaker devices. We're going to get to him in just a moment, my friends. But first, a big shout out and thank you to supporter Luther Fairley. He has hopped on our Patreon bandwagon to help us keep rolling. And don't forget, folks, you can do the same thing. For as low as $1 a month, you can help keep this show coming out week after week by heading over to patreon.com/Roadie Free Radio. Thank you so much, Luther. I appreciate the love, man. In case you guys are wondering also, this is being recorded on the Samson Q2U microphone that I picked up last week. As you know, I spoke about it a little bit, and I did an unboxing video on our YouTube channel. Head over and check that out. But I'm pretty happy with this. I did an episode this week with it. Actually, I've done 2 interviews so far, and I'm pretty impressed with this microphone. It's pretty solid, man. The Samson Q2U, I'm going to do a more full review about this on YouTube, so keep an eye out for that. Also on YouTube, just came out, folks, drum roll, the old studio tour. I finally broke down and shot a studio tour, and I think it came out pretty well. Head over, check it out. You can see the inner workings here at the barn of Roadie Free Radio and where things happen and how they take place. I would also like to give a shout out today to some birthday folks. Miss Lucinda Rowe, a former guest of the show. Lucinda, happy birthday. Richie Fliegler, This man's coming on soon enough. I got to get it together, find a few minutes to get Richie on the show, but it's going to happen. And of course, Trace Davis, happy birthday to you as well. Also, you may have seen this week that Jerry Stickles has passed away. Long-time tour and production manager for legends such as Jimi Hendrix, Queen, and Elton John, and many, many others. Jerry Stickles, we wish you a happy road trip to that great gig in the sky. Randy Brown has recently posted that Dave Pate, guitar tech for King's X, Joe Bonamassa, Bad Company, Buck Cherry, he's currently out with Seven Dust, has come down with hairy cell leukemia. You can help Dave's family by heading over to his GoFundMe campaign. Go to GoFundMe.com and look up Dave Pate. There's been a lot of bad stuff like this going on. We've lost a lot of people. A lot of people are in need of some help. And those of us that are healthy, it's hard to sort of manage our own stress with all this kind of thing. I just did an episode this week, if you have not caught it, with Sue Anello, homeopathic consultant, who was on the show last December, and she reached out in the midst of all this just trauma going on and stuff happening, and we talked and we thought perhaps we should put out an episode and just give you some thoughts and some things to keep in mind, how to keep the mind healthy, the heart healthy this time of year, obviously when things are slow and you're coming off the road, but also just how to deal with some anxiety and stress. So check that out. It just came out this week. We've got some good news, and I want to give a shout out to Mark Agnesi, who was just recently on the show, episode 120. Mark, as you may or may not know, is the general manager over at Norman's Rare Guitars in Los Angeles. As well, he heads up their YouTube channel. Great guy. He has posted that he will now be moving on and working at Gibson Guitars as Director of Brand Experience. Ooh, I think he's probably the right guy for the job. Mark's a solid dude, knows his instruments, and I think he's going to bring a lot of good stuff to Gibson Guitars. So Mark, good on you, buddy. Congrats. And we'll be looking out for great things from you in the future. I also want to let you guys know about some folks that are coming up here on the show over the next few weeks. Here's what you can expect next week's episode. Producer, composer, great dude down in Kentucky, Mr. Ashley Shepard's going to be on the show. Front of house engineer and monitor engineer Grace Rosa is going to be on the show. And ending the month, Mrs. Laura Davis Chanin, drummer for the seminal punk band coming out of New York in the 70s, the Student Teachers, and current author of the book, The Girl in the Back. I'm about halfway through Laura's book, totally digging it. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited. I'm so excited I can't speak to have Laura on the show. So that's very cool. Who is going to Phil Lesch's birthday at the Capitol Theater on March 14th? I'm going to be there. If you are going, please let me know. Give me a shout. I will look for you, give you a hug. It'll be a good time. Also, April 7th, Northeast Guitar Expo. I will be there at the Oakdale Theater in Wallingford, Connecticut. Very excited for all that. All right, here we go. Let's get to today's episode. Mr. Chris Wilson is our guest today. As I said, live sound engineer, creator of ShowPro Beard Co, who, by the way, is the only sponsor for today's episode. I can't have Chris on the show and be busting out some other sponsors, so here it is. Chris and his wife started ShowPro Beard Co. Okay, they've created their very own unique formula of beard balm that not only performs well in terms of health and nourishment, but also provides the control, shine, and pleasant aroma that any bearded professional would appreciate. These are non-waxy, all-natural beard balms that will leave your beard soft, smooth, and nourished. Choose from a variety of natural-smelling scents like Home Sweet Home, Morning Wood, Through the Woods, and, of course, Original Unscented, and, of course, the original Chain Motor Oil. Listen, if you use the code ROADIE, you get yourself 20% off your entire order. You could buy a lot of beard balm, get yourself a 20% discount, and be a happy bearded professional. Use that code ROADIE over at ShowProBeardCo.com. Now, Chris used to work for Tectonic Audio, All right. He's done front of house mixing at NAMM for some big old events like Bass Bash, the Bonzo Bash, celebrating the life of John Bonham, Randy Rhoads tribute, a lot of stuff. And he just got off the road as front of house for the national tour of the Million Dollar Quartet. We jump into all this stuff. He is a sponsored Lewitt microphone dude. He loves his Lewitt microphones. And he's the founder of ShowPro Beard Co. and Wilson Design Labs. So we jump into a lot of stuff. Great dude out of Dallas, Texas. I really enjoyed this chat. I hope you guys do as well. Don't forget, head over to showprobeardco.com. This is the only sponsor for today's episode. And get yourself 20% off some beard balms. Clean yourself up a little bit. You know who you are. Get off the bus. Beard's going sideways and front ways and back ways. Clean it up, man. You're representing your artist. Anyway, thanks guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hit me up if you got any questions or comments. info@roadiefreeradio.com. And as always, enjoy this. Here we go with Mr. Chris Wilson.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Chris, my man, what's happening, Mr. Wizard? Shall I call you Audio or Wizard?
Oh, the Audio Wizard's just fine, man.
The Audio, Sir Audio Wizard. What's going on? How are you? How you been?
I've been well. It's been pretty chilly out here in Dallas.
Don't go there. Don't talk to me about chilly. Bro, if I could turn this camera around, you'd see chilly. Trust me.
We haven't seen snow all year yet.
No? Wow, you're just rubbing it in, aren't you? Just rubbing it in. Are you off the road now? Is Million Dollar Quartet done? What's happening?
You know, they're actually out, I think, here pretty soon. But myself, I'll be off the road for a little bit.
Okay.
After this last run, my son kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I need you to slow down a little bit."
Whoa, interesting. I like how we jumped ahead. One of my because you sent me your opus, that it was your bio that I appreciate. And you got a lot going on between the YouTube and the trainings and the working and the family and the whole thing, the ShowPro Beard Co. So I have here time. Where do you find it? And you've just kicked us off into balancing a pretty hectic schedule. So, but you have a young one too, right?
Indeed. Yeah, I have Rowan. She'll be almost 2 here soon, and Riker's 4.
Okay, 4. And he was like, "Listen, pal, that's enough."
Yeah, it was kind of wild. I mean, the day I got home, he pulled me aside. He said, "Dad, we need to talk." I said, "All right." He said, "Listen, I know that you were out being a sound man on tour, and you have to do that to make money, but you made Mom and Sister very sad, and I don't like that."
Oh.
He came at me with the, "Dad, there must be something else."
Wow.
I was like, "Hey, man, I was not expecting that so young," but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you are not alone, my man. I mean, I don't deal with that. Mine's 3.5. He hasn't quite come out with that. He's come out with other things. He didn't want to go to school today. He said, "I just want to stay here with you, Dad, all day." "Why do you have to go to work?" Well, because this is a nice house that we live in, my man, and you gotta, you want another spaceship. Daddy's got to go to work. Mommy's got to go to work. That's what happens. And you got to go to school because you spent too much time home in the month of February with snow days. So get on out. And obviously hundreds and hundreds of men and women out there who do what you do make the sacrifice as well. So now you are faced with that. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I always made a point while I was on the road, any time that I had any downtime that I wasn't thinking about the show, I would call the kids and video Skype, and I would probably do that probably 6+ times a day, and that keeps that relationship moving. But pulling yourself off the road to do other things is kind of hard sometimes. You have that momentum that continues to go, the itch to get back on a bus and move. But I mean, getting out on the road, doing all of that is for the family regardless. And so it's a lot better, to stay here with the family.
Yeah.
And find something that I can do locally and do fly shows, go out and mix for groups, or go commission, either manufacturers, PAs or systems directly for consultants.
Yeah. And you've got the church gig. You still do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been there for almost, I guess, 5 years now.
Wow, man. So it's not, so I guess, so it is, it has been a full conscious decision. Did you talk to your wife and say, okay, I get it. I'm going to come off the road for a while?
Yeah. Whenever Riker was born, we had that conversation, when I would slow down. And so, yeah, it's always been there. I've always been thinking about what was going to happen whenever, he came at me, and I thought it was going to be much later in life. But, I told him then and there, I said, yeah, man, there's plenty of things I can do. I can make money doing other things. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I plan on going back on the road. But I mean, I'll go out for a weekend or something here and there, but nothing more than a couple of weeks for probably several years.
Wow. How long were you out with Million Dollar Quartet?
That run was only 3 months, and that was separated from another leg of a tour. And so the first leg was out for 2 months. It set for, I want to say 3 weeks, and then I joined up for 3 months.
Wow. Damn. So you were out there.
Yeah. It was a really fun time. The show itself, I would get so submerged in, it's a multi-level kind of show. It's, for an engineer, it is the fine line of mixing dynamic spoken word and 50s rock and roll, trying to get them both at the same level, to where the stage doesn't fall on its face whenever it goes back to spoken word. It was a really fun show to mix, that's for sure.
And this is a traveling version of Million Dollar Quartet. And anyone who has not seen Million Dollar Quartet, give us the quick elevator pitch.
So the Million Dollar Quartet is Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, and Carl Perkins. And it's about a night that they all got together at Summit Records in Memphis. And it was the only night that all four was in the same room.
It was at Summit or at Sun?
I'm sorry, Sun Records. Thank you.
Sun Records, yeah.
I live on Summit Street. So, not a lot of people knew that night took place, and a lot of things came out whenever Sam Phillips passed away, and they found a lot of stuff from that night that was recorded, but it never should have aired. Because everyone was on different labels at the time. And so that's why we got a lot of gospel from Elvis out, I want to say in 2004, 2005. A lot of it came from that night that they found after Sam passed. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. But
the stage sets as Sun Records, and it's kind of a memory of Sam's. The whole night kind of wraps around Sam and what he's remembering from that evening. And it's a dream sequence.
That's very cool, man. I've got that record. It's a great record. In fact, I pick it up when I went to Sun Studios years ago.
Yeah, the outside wall, the brick wall of Sun Studios, our facade looked like the wall was being ripped away and looking into the studio from the outside. And I think the coolest part about that show is the dream sequence starts, but Sam is the only one that actually breaks the fourth wall. None of the other characters even point out that there's other people watching. They never look at the audience. Sam will stop, turn, and speak directly to the audience. And then again, that's something that I haven't seen in too many other shows. Yeah. And that's something that I really enjoy about that show.
So I think you're the first engineer that's been on the show. I have to think this through as I come out with this, who has, and you've mixed a lot of bands.
Indeed.
And I've had people on the show that have mixed Broadway shows. I think you're the first guy who's actually traveled venue to venue with a show like this. So a little bit different. First, you have the challenge, like you said, of making sure that the regular spoken word and the music and whatnot all sits together nicely. So talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges and whatnot of bringing a show like this. I mean, I guess it is a band in a way, coming into a new venue every time, but talk about the process, right? I mean, I guess, are you tuning the room? Are you doing things like that that you would do normally?
Oh, absolutely. It's just like any other big band show, but there's set pieces, big set pieces that are running with us. So I think the tallest set piece is 35 feet. And, we'll break the truck at 7 a.m., start rolling in, and it's a dance all day between electrics and audio, where I can be on stage when they've got to be on stage. But it's a great team, and we work together to get through it. As soon as electrics gets basically downstage, I usually have everything out and ready to run. So whenever I go to lunch, they have the stage to focus. And then whenever I come back, there's no one around. I can get everything onto stage and then start tuning the room. The upside is that I carried a Allen Heath Dlive System that allowed for virtual sound check. And so I would run that into a lake unit that I would do all of my processing to the in-house PA. And so whenever we would arrive that morning, I would talk to the in-house audio technician and, say, hey, I'm giving you left, right, center subs, program delay, and front fill. And here are your lines. And once everyone was out of the room, I could go to town tuning. I use a Systune rig that I fly with. And so I would tune. Then I would run virtual sound check from the night before, walk the room, check the delays, make sure the balcony, the zones are in time, and go on from there. I would have about, I would say, 30-minute break before I would have to start teching like the guitars and the mics and making sure all the connections are right. And again, the Dlive allows you to have a full console within your tablet instead of just like an iPad app. So I could get into the full console, run virtual sound check from the stage side and make sure their wedges are getting the correct information at the right level versus their instruments that also have the ability to run live while I'm there. And it just speeds up that process, especially not having a instrument tech, but we have a stage tech, but she kind of does everything.
I was going to ask how big your team is.
Believe it or not, there was only 4 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very interesting. You have to know how to delegate properly.
Sure. And the instrumentation, we obviously got a guitar, we got a piano, drums and bass as well, slap bass or what?
Absolutely. Mr. Bill Morey is an amazing bass player. He's got 2 different custom basses that have wireless and its own gain preamp underneath the dovetail.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he can run all over that stage and have a great time, and no wind noise or anything. Everything's a piezo amp. So a piezo pickup, and then a dual stage amp underneath the dovetail. And so we've got the upright bass, we've got drums, we've got electric with the electric guitar with Carl, and then Elvis and John both have acoustic guitars, and then Jerry Lee has his keys, and then we have a couple of just stage antiqued looking mics, one for the studio, another one for kind of a cutaway, and then we have 5 Super 55s, and it's an interesting conversation. Everyone is about 6 to 6'2" in height. Mm-hmm. And so, with a Super 55, you kind of have to get really close to it to get really nice tone. And when they're up there jamming with their guitars, being 6 foot, almost 6 foot stands, that gets kind of hard for them to try to hit dead center of that mic, because it's wobbling about on really old stages. But again, the Dlive helps because I can implement a multi-band compressor. I can work that signal chain to where I can get a lot more energy out, and then compress the low built up information whenever they actually get really up close to it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I used to use a 55 on the show as my in-studio mic. I found a vintage one at a flea market that I picked up for literally $120, and got a new cable for it and ran it through this thing, and I enjoyed it. I ended up selling it.
Yeah.
Selling it.
It looks cool.
It looks really cool. They're awesome, man. They're awesome. But well, that's awesome. And you must have had fun with it. That music is great. Were you a fan of that period of music?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was, for me, that's what hit me hard when I was a kid. And obviously for us, it was, years prior when all that came out. But I don't know what it was, man. I was introduced to like Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and all that. And it just, man, from there, Stray Cats, I got way into the Stray Cats, and, that's a great time period. It's when it was born.
Absolutely.
Right? It's when it was born.
Yeah.
And the gospel and the church, I mean, those are all main ingredients into this stuff.
Absolutely. There's a lot of soul and a lot of passion behind that kind of music.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this day and age, we don't have that, the passion and the raw emotion into a lot of music.
Yep. Absolutely. No, for sure, man. I mean, I think a lot about even some of the writers, I think about John Lennon tunes and whatnot from the 70s, and just the things that they were willing to say and their own personal emotion that they were willing to put on the line and put out there. And not a lot of people are taking risks today. Although I got to say, Gary Clark Jr.'s new song is pretty slamming tune, man.
Gary's, yeah, I mean, he's one of his own. I mean, he's got, raw emotion everywhere. It's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's go back a bit, man. Growing up in Texas, Your dad was a TV VCR repairman. He owned his own shop or what?
Absolutely. Dad had about 4 TV VCR repair shops across the DFW Metroplex. And growing up watching entrepreneurship is kind of, I think, feeds a lot of my entrepreneurship for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, I come from a split home, right? So I would stay with my mom and my stepdad, and I would go and see my dad and my stepmom every weekend. And every weekend, Dad would have to go and work the shops. And so growing up, a lot of the times I would hang out in what they called the dead room. It's where everything goes to die, anything that can't be fixed or people don't want to spend the money to be fixed. And so that's where my love of electronics came, to fruition. I would go in there and steal speakers and stuff out of TVs and cables and motors. And speakers, for some reason, I just gravitated toward collecting. And I remember coming home to my mom's house with just this big bag of electronics, and she was just like, why? Where is that going?
Yeah, totally. Hey, I used to take tape recorders, telephones apart, back in the day when you could take a phone apart and there was actually something in there to, make the bell go ding, ding, or whatever it was, the old rotary phones and stuff. So I get it, man. Take off the caps on the hand, the whatever that hand thing was, right? Take those caps off. There's a little speaker in there, and you'd like pretend to put a bug in, and you were like a spy or whatever it was. So I get it, dude. Or taking an old VCR apart, absolutely. Was your dad good? Was he hands-on and showing you different things?
Oh, absolutely. They showed me how to solder at a very young age, and the technicians would pass me a piece of gear, have me float the solder points, and give me like $1 for every solder point, And as a kid, I thought I was rich.
Sure.
Now I see that I was just rich with people showing me things. Yep. It was great.
Yep. And then on your mom's side, she brought you the gift of music.
Absolutely. My mom was a piano teacher since she was very young, and I grew up in Southern Baptist community where my mother sang the specials every week and played the piano every Sunday. And so I want to say I was 9 whenever she got me my first guitar. And the love of music started and hasn't left.
And you gravitated toward the bass, yeah?
Yeah. What's funny is I remember I did pretty bad in school one day, and my mom's like, until we bring that grade up, I think we're going to stop guitar lessons. And I was like, and I don't know. I think it was a couple of months later, I had a birthday, and she gave me a quarter scale bass guitar. And she's like, I think you could hang out in your bedroom and understand this one a little bit easier. And I was like, but I want to play guitar. Everyone plays guitar.
Yeah.
And I picked up the bass, and I said, it's a lot easier to understand coming from watching my mom play the piano and just root chords and getting after it. And then I remember the first time I heard Victor Wooten play, I was like, good Lord, I didn't know that could happen. I didn't know a bass could do that. Yeah. And it kind of opened my eyes to other, bassists and growing up in, the rock and roll scene, watching Metallica and, those guys. And so I definitely, gravitated more towards the rock and roll guys. But
and what you went off to school for music. You studied audio science and music theory. Was the plan you were going to be in a band? This is it, or what?
I was in a band, in a high school band. We were called the Unled. It was a great time. We played a lot of shows in Deep Ellum and so forth. But I remember, I want to say it was 10th grade year. I was in a business class in high school, and the teacher walked by and she goes, "So what are you going to do with life?" And I was like, "I have no idea." She goes, "Well, what do you love to do at home?" I said, "Well, I tear apart electronics. A lot of those electronics are, microphones or speakers or, mostly music equipment." And she was like, "That sounds like an audio engineer. You should look at that." I said, "Cool." So early days of the internet, I looked that up and I said, "Man, that sounds like a really cool gig." And I mean, from that day, that's all I've thought about was being a sound man. And so out of high school, I already knew where I was going to pursue that career. I'd looked into like Full Sail and Media Tech and all of these uncredited courses. They were certificate classes at the time. And the course that I did wind up taking was out of South Dallas at Cedar Valley. And it was the only school that would allow you to double major. And whenever you completed the double major, you would get one credit in music and one in audio science. But I was taking 18 hours a semester, and I was also interning at a club in Deep Ellum at the same time, and working 2 jobs.
Wow. What
Yeah.
were the 2 jobs?
So of a morning, I would go to the Dodge dealership and I would open up the service drive and write service on the drive up until around noon. And then I would go across town and take my courses. And then I would go to Outback Steakhouse of the afternoon and wait a couple of tables to get just
Cash.
food and gas money. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for about 2 years, I interned at the Curtain Club. And so that was starting at about 9 p.m. and about until 2 a.m. And then I would get up and do it again.
Wow. Sacrifice. Hustle.
That's what you got to do whenever you know what, has to happen. You just do it.
And what at that point, what was the goal? Like I'm making this sacrifice so that I can.
I wanted to be a road engineer. I wanted to be out on a tour bus and mixing to thousands of people. And, what's funny is I went to school for this, and the band I was in didn't really appreciate it. They had an idea of, well, if that's what you want to do, we're going to move on. And I was like, hey, man, that's fine. And years later, we worked together. I'll mix them and so on and so forth. But a lot of people didn't understand that hustle mentality.
Yeah.
Of work for your future, not for tomorrow. Just think ahead.
Yeah, I think people still don't understand that, right?
Very true. Very true. Think about the YouTube stuff, right? It drags sometimes, it's kind of slow at times, but if you just pay attention to the market, how things are moving along, I think the forward part of this plan will pay off. Mm-hmm. It's a long go, that's for sure. It's a long game, but a lot of people don't understand the long game.
Let's jump to YouTube because you're fairly new into the circle.
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit longer in the circle, but still treading water. What made you jump in? You've got a lot of other stuff going on. And doing YouTube, making videos every week or however many you make a week, whatever it is, whatever your own schedule is. I think you're 1 a week.
About one a week. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that easy, right? I mean, and if you want to sort of stand out above the rest, you got to put a little time and extra time in and all this stuff. So for you, what was the decision to jump in and do it? And how have you, mined through looking at the stats and like you said, trying to play the long game. And I think also understanding what the YouTube community is about.
Yeah.
I just threw a lot at you.
Oh, all good. All good. I think for the longest time, I've had people telling me, man, you should do a YouTube review channel because I have a lot of opinions about things, but,
yeah, there's a particular video we're going to dive into.
Okay. All right. So I think if you really pay attention to any market that we're in right now, be audio or video or, computers, 3D printers. I mean, everything right now is heavily marketed on the internet, either, via Facebook or YouTube. A lot of the normal marketing concepts are going toward the YouTube influencer style. And believe it or not, there's a couple of people that have kind of talked me into this, but I watch a lot of Gary V. You ever watch Gary V stuff?
Obsessed, dude. Obsessed.
Yeah, man, he's on point.
I watch and I listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I listen to the podcast a lot when I'm driving, when I'm traveling.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I'll listen to him while I go to the gym. I mean, he's on point. He's another forward thinker. He doesn't live for today or tomorrow. He's living for the next 5 years. And he makes a lot of really good points about the market in general. Mm-hmm. And, if you're not on it now, then you've already missed the train kind of concept. And it just made me think about the things that I do, the things that I get to do, like fly to NAMM and talk to manufacturers or, go and tune for manufacturers or a lot of come up people want to see that kind of thing, what they can do, where they can go, what does it take to do something. I've got a couple of really cool videos coming that, they submerge into live venues, big live venues that, it's like, what does it take to put on a show there?
Yeah.
And there's thousands of people that would love to see what does it take to put on a show? Yeah. What is this day and age? How do you secure that many people? What's security like? What's the payload of this room? A lot of really cool information that a lot of people would like to see. Yeah. And, obviously I do gear reviews and I just came out with a 3D printing, thing. And so I'll be doing a couple of different cross niches, if you will, because I mean, it's just a part of my life. And so that's kind of what I'm doing is that's why I called it the Audio Wizards, because I do so many different things across this audio world, whether it being 3D printing wooden speakers or commissioning for a manufacturer or, talking about a piece of gear. These are all things that I do natural anyway. So why not talk to the masses about it? Yeah. Did you get bogged down before you started as to like, well, what's it going to be and all this kind of stuff and what should it look like? And did that hamper you at all? Or did you say, fuck it, I'm just jumping in and doing it? Man, absolutely. You should have seen my first couple of videos. I was like, oh man, that's terrible. Yeah. Yeah. But it was really hard to learn to write down what I was going to say and say it without sounding like a robot.
Yep.
If you watch my first couple of videos, I'm very robotic because I'm not used to being in the spotlight. I'm used to being on the other side of a desk, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Being on stage has never bothered me, you know, sound checking, those kind of things never bothered me.
Totally different though. It's totally different.
As soon as the camera comes on, my brain stops, and then I have to read something, and then I sound very robotic, and that's not really where I wanted the show to go. So I've been working on that a lot.
The show, I mean, I've watched a few of them, man, but my favorite one so far is the one you do about, like, what is it? Five things you shouldn't do that will piss your audio engineer off.
Yep.
And people listening, if you have not gone to his channel and subscribed and watched this video, it's great. And I think that was the first one for me. Well, that one and your one of your NAMM ones, where I could see your personality really start to come out. It's hard, man. You know, and I come from being an actor. I was an actor musician for years. And then I made, a film, and that was it. And I wanted to be behind the camera. And I started this show. And it's, it takes 20, 25 episodes, I found, before you really start finding your voice. And then you go deeper and deeper into, like, what the thing is that you're doing. And that was no problem. And then it was like, I better jump into this YouTube thing. And I made the sort of natural mistake of, like, the YouTube channel is going to be the TV version of the podcast. And I set up the lights up in front of the desk. And it was like, I was trying to be David Letterman or something. I was just doing the intros. It just wasn't right. And the more I watched on YouTube, because I watch a lot of people there, the more I found too that, like, it really is a community, and being authentic and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized too, like, I can't make it this show. It's got to be more. What do I know? I know about filmmaking. I know about podcasting. I know about guitar playing. Just talk about that shit. And so then once I sort of refound the direction, I've been much more comfortable. But my point is, all of a sudden being back on camera when it's just you in your little room and that thing's pointing at you, and now I've got a tablet holder so I can see my notes, and it's a little intimidating, man.
Absolutely.
It's a little crazy. All right. So, but going back to your video about the 5 things, whatever it is, not to piss your sound guy off. So who's the member of the band? Which position? Is it the drummer? Is it the bassist? Is it the lead vocal that drives you fucking bananas?
I mean,
is there the one position that comes in for line to check? Like, oh my God, here comes another bassist.
Oh, it's usually the drummer for me, I think. A lot of the times, the vocalist will be fine. It's a funny story about a vocalist. Anyway.
No, you got to share that one, dude.
There was a really great band out of Dallas a while back called Edgewater. And man, I really love those guys. And one night they showed up for sound check, and I was trying to get the drummer, and the vocalist come up and he just, hey, in his vocal mic. And I'm like, dude, chill out. We're not working on you. And he's just, hey. And so finally I just reached over and opened up his mic all the way, technically I just rode the gain all the way up and just unmuted really fast so we would kick him in the face. And turns out I think he might have been a little smashed already. And so he kind of stumbled about, and I was like, cool, did you learn your lesson? He was like, yeah. I was like, all right, sometimes you gotta kind of have to show them, hey man, I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing it for my own good,
Right.
But it's definitely the drummers. There's a lot of mics to go around on the drum kit, especially at festival shows. I see this a lot because the guys haven't been able to really set up or practice. They have to grab their stuff, put it right on stage. I get it. They want to make sure that the skins are right, everything's in tune, the placement's correct. But I mean, smashing away right there while you're trying to mic up is incredibly rude, and a lot of guys just don't understand that.
Right. Oh, right. Not even when you're back at the console, but like right there when you're trying to mic the kit.
Yeah.
Just bang
that happens often
in your face.
Yeah. I've had to I almost kicked a drummer off the stage one day because he hit his splash as I was doing like Tom 3, and I reached up and stopped it. And I said, "Hey man, do you want to play tonight?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Knock it off." And I keep going, I keep miking, and it just like it one ear out the other, and he kept going. I stopped his cymbal again. I was like, "Dude, I'm not playing with you." I'm like, "Please be courteous of me and others. Chill out, you know." And I mean, they just don't get it, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if you're there mixing like a festival gig, you're doing upwards of 12 bands that day.
Sure.
You don't need that.
No. Oh my God. All right, let's hit some of the other stuff you're involved in, because there's a lot, least of which is ShowPro Beard Co.
Yeah.
By the way, this episode is fully sponsored by ShowPro. All right. No other sponsors on this episode today, friends.
Love it.
Let's talk about ShowPro. We know why you started it. You're a bearded gentleman. Your wife wanted you to be cleaned up a little bit. I put some on this morning.
Yeah, you look great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a light beard, but even when it starts to get a little bit more than just the 5 o'clock, I put it on just because the smell. I like the sense you got there.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, man. Tell me about the business acumen of. I mean, you got a lot of shit going on, dude. You're 3D printing. You're trying to just be a sound guy, right? You're an independent contractor for all intents and purposes. You're driving that ship. You've got the 3D printing for the speakers, and you're doing ShowPro. Entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you, Dad. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about ShowPro.
Yeah, ShowPro. I saw a market while I was on the road. A lot of the guys would get off the bus with their beard being all gnarly, and I would have mine tamed and pulled down. And, there's not enough time in a tour day to Google, where can I pick up beard balm close, or even just go out and search for that while, you only have 45 minutes to grab lunch. It's just, you'll put it off every day, And so I saw this market to where, I know if I'm on the road, I like to have things drop shipped to shows. And truthfully, I was on the road and a buddy of mine, a lighting friend of mine named Ryan Reardon, is a great LD. He had a long beard, but it came off. He got off the bus. It was like 90 degrees off his face. And I was like, "Hey man, try this out." And he was like, "Dude, that was incredible. Could I use some more?" And he goes, "You should come out with something that smells like chain motor oil." I said, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of on the road LDs and riggers that will use actual chain motor and put it in their beard to keep it out of their face whenever they're doing, high work in the air or on the floor." And I was like, man, I never thought about that. And the first scent that I came up with, because I've just been using a unscented oil or beard balm. And so the first one that we came up with was the musky chain motor scent. And a lot of the riggers love it. They really do. And from there, we thought about two people. One, will the guy like to wear it, and will a companion like to smell that,
Yeah.
So we had a couple of people come by and give their opinion on the smell, if they could, handle it all day, kind of thing. And we got to, several different scents, and they've been working out really well.
That's awesome. And how's the company doing overall, man?
Doing well. It supports itself pretty well. We recently got a really nice influx of road touring individuals. I do believe come from this very channel. Yeah,
Beautiful.
thank you, sir.
You're very
yes,
welcome.
sir. I've got some of the guys in Bowling for Soup using it, and Chris has a pretty awesome beard, and I got R2. He's a technician out there. Reed, he's been using it. Just put out a really cool side stage post from I think he's out with Coercion of Conformity. I could not do it without my wife. My wife is 100% on board with everything I'm doing, and it's definitely something that we do together. Whenever I'm out, I'm tuning something or working for somebody. If something comes in, she takes care of everything. She'll label it, ship it, do all the back end. A lot of the social media that you see from my stuff, my wife does on the back end. You're right. I mean, it's a lot of stuff for one person to do. And so, trying to do build design and actually building speakers, and also, working for different manufacturers or music groups, or doing editing for a million hours on one video. My eyes can't be on social media all that much. And so she helps out tremendously on the social media side, and a lot on the marketing and just overall back end of ShowPro for sure.
Yeah. And I imagine you're in the stage, as is mostly the stage with these things. When you're getting them off the ground, you're just getting it out there. Just get the product out there, keep it moving, market it. Right. No bigger plans. I'm like, let's just keep moving forward, get it out there, grow it.
Yeah.
Early
I mean,
stages.
right now we're definitely still in the grow push movement. We've got a couple of ideas on some new products that are coming about, but we're still trying to get out to the masses,
Yeah.
It's actually this past year was great with that. Getting out to the market that we're trying to hit, the touring professional, even the guys that might work for like a regional, sound company, or maybe even just integrators, guys that wake up and fly out, look at venues. I mean, even those guys, you don't really have time to break away and think about yourself half the time. Right. Whenever you can just look up on the internet and have it shipped to wherever you're going to be, that's a lot easier,
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I like the sense you sent me that little sample pack. And so it's nice to be like, I want to smell like that today. I'm going to try this one today, or nothing. Right. So they unscented, just throw that on.
Exactly.
Still get that shine.
I've got a guy out in Las Vegas. He really likes our Through the Woods, which is a 5 different Texas fir, but he wants to smell even more, woody. And so he'll take the unscented and just pour in essential oil into his hand and mix it himself.
That's awesome. Well, when you reached out last year and you gave me the gist of the story, I mean, that you are an actual working sound guy. And I talk about it when I do the read, you're an actual working live sound engineer, and you do this and you use it. I was like, that's a no-brainer, man. It's a no-brainer. Tell me about the speakers, dude. You're 3D printing your own speakers. This is another endeavor from you.
Yes, indeed.
Break it down for me. Wilson Design Labs, WDL.
I like it. Yeah.
Home of the Wizard.
Man, nailed it. Yeah. So I was the primary engineer for a company called Tectonic Audio Labs for many years. They have a resonant audio loudspeaker And if you haven't checked out Resonant Audio, go check it out. It's really interesting device. They call it wave bending. In a nutshell, it is a flat panel that resonates like a cello body does. Wow. So instead of having a pistonic driver with one source point, it is a panel that breaks up into different modes, and those modes are technically multiple source points from one device. There's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to the concept. For pro audio, it just wasn't feasible, and that company has backed away kind of from making a pro audio concept, and they've been picked up by Amazon and Google to put out the next Alexa and new Google Home and stuff like that for their smaller devices. I know that they recently was in, I think, the Bentley and so on and so on. Mm. But I really enjoy the concept of resonant energy, and I had to obviously sign an NDA to where I couldn't further the driver. I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't teach about it. I could do nothing on it for some time. Well, that's done. And within that time period, I came up with a lot of really cool ideas on home listening devices using resonant audio. And working for different manufacturers, you kind of see what to do and what not to do. And I've always wanted to have my own concept, especially of resonant audio. And so whenever I was thinking about it, truthfully, I was going to build these out of solid blocks of wood and CNC mill them and so on and so on. But the first one I dug into, it's a lot harder to work with different forms of wood whenever you're trying to get them to do pretty crazy things.
Yeah.
I would have a lot of failures, and I'm kind of a person to, instead of receive a failure and back off something, usually it's a challenge to figure out how to work around it. And I come across the idea of 3D printing wood fiber. Mm. And I put it to the test, and it's really interesting. It's incredibly strong. It has an inherent wood timbre to it. And a lot of people are like, well, why 3D print it? Well, let's say in the next month, where I get my devices or my components, what if something changes? If I have multiple molds of what I was previously casting, I have to toss those out. Mm-hmm. And in this scenario, all it is to go back into Fusion 360 and redo, just reform what's there and then tell the printer to go. It's a lot easier to change what's going on, with every concept build. And so, it reacts like wood. It sounds like wood. It sands and stains like wood. And I'm using resonant audio devices from Dayton Audio out of Dayton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. American-made stuff. I'm using a couple of their a couple of the interior pieces are from them as well. But I think the idea for this device comes from the 1940s to 1970s, where all of our technology was put into pieces of furniture. Yep. Like a piece of your house. Yeah. You remember?
Oh, I vividly remember my grandmother had a console that was her TV, but it was also like a armoire thing. I don't know, like an end table almost. It was amazing. It was huge.
Yeah, and
or a stereo that was built in. You'd lift that wooden top. It had those arms, right? And you change the record, whatever it was. Yeah, those things were awesome.
Yeah, those are the best, and we've gone very far from that in the consumer idea of where our stereo come from. If I looked at you now and said, "Hey, man, go buy a stereo," most folks would go to Best Buy or Target or Walmart and see what they can afford. Some folks would probably Google reviews and so on and so on. But I think the idea for this speaker design is definitely more of a signature series, more of a art piece, and hi-fi listening audio. It's definitely not for the everyday consumer, although it's definitely priced for the everyday consumer, and it also has characteristics of like a Sonos or an Alexa, to where it can tie into your Wi-Fi network. You can stream iHeart and Pandora, Tidal, whatever you want.
Your favorite podcast about roadies.
Exactly. You can stream it.
Yep.
And it's set up in a way that it's very simple. It's one switch on. Everything else is done either over the network or over your application on a cell phone. And it does Bluetooth 4.2, which is like a lossless, so you can actually run FLAC file straight to it.
Wow.
And once you turn it off, you turn it back on and it remembers what you've done last. So say if you're listening to roadie free radio and you turn it off, the next time you turn it on, it'll log directly back into the Wi-Fi and start streaming that station. So I've kind of brought the concept of new technology, hi-fi, audio, and stuffed it into a really beautiful cherry red, wooden chassis that you wouldn't even know was 3D printed.
That's crazy. So when are these things coming out? Like, when are you in like production?
I have them in production now. I released them January 1, and I've had a slow but steady, questions, but I've had 4 sold so far. And
what's our price point on these?
Base model is $995, almost $1,000. But the idea, I think, is you can think of them as almost like a Sonos, to where you can build upon it. So say if you have one in the living room, you can put one in your bedroom, and they'll all speak to one application, to where you can tie them all in. They can be upgraded. For the real hi-fi guys, we can go from a 48K clock to a 96K clock.
Wow.
With the transfer from the Wi-Fi chip to the DSP over optical. So it cleans up some of the upper transients a little bit, just due from the clock time. And then I also offer a wireless extended subwoofer that looks just like the Genesis one. And it's programmed directly for that unit. So it wirelessly transmits the signal from Genesis 1 to the woofer, and that's with timing and EQ and everything.
Wow.
It's neat.
That sounds awesome, man.
We can do different, stains, or, I can have it candy coated, whatever color you would like, it is, whenever it is ordered, there's about a 2-week build process, depending on what you want done to it and kind of what my schedule is.
Right.
Like I said, it's more of like a signature custom designed piece. I've had 2 different companies order so far to put into their office space, but we can also do a laser etched logo into the wooden chassis. And that's been a big push as well. A lot of folks are doing that.
That's very cool. So how do people find these things? You got a website?
I have a website under construction. I'm still trying to get the drop down menus to act right.
Okay.
But if you go to Wilson Design Labs on Facebook, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me so far.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I want to be conscious of time here, but I want to hit one last thing with you, my friend, and that is that you are a lure. Jeez, you are a Lewitt microphone sponsored dude.
Yes.
Let's talk about the mic you're using right now. Let's talk about some of your favorite mics. You've been with them for 5+ years.
Yes. Yeah.
Long time.
Man, they're just an incredible amount of people. Really good individuals to work with, and they have a strong passion to push things forward. You know, the microphone that I'm on right now is the Lewitt Interviewer mic. They just came out with this not too long ago, and I picked it up while I was out at NAMM, and it's a large dynamic mic, but it has built-in filters. So, I mean, I can get right up on it, and I don't have the windscreen over it, which it does come with. But the interesting thing about this guy, it's completely CNC'd out of one piece of aluminum, the entire thing. And if you go watch a video they just came out with, they show someone cracking a walnut open with it. Yeah,
so
it's
if the
pretty
interview's
intense.
not going well, you bam, wake somebody up, right?
All right, I just lost you.
Oh, I went away. I thought that joke fell flat. I didn't know what happened there.
I didn't know what happened there either. It was weird. All right.
The audio just dropped out.
Yeah, everything just stopped. It said poor internet connection.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll do it again. So if your interview's not going well, you can just crack someone over the head with it, get them to wake up.
Exactly.
There you go.
There you go. But it's also wind, water, and dust resistant. And for a interviewer mic, that's perfect.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I didn't know much about their mics. I knew Fela Davis. You know Fela?
Yeah.
I know they're big Lewitt people, she and Dennis. And I always liked the sound of their show. And then she introduced me to them at this past AES here in New York in October or November, whenever the hell it was. And man, is it the 414? It's
they have
like that.
They have one that's very close to like a 414 look. They've got like the LCT 240s. Somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
Oh man, that thing was fantastic.
Yes, they have a couple of really cool mics in that concept. They've got one that for overheads for drummers, you can send it phantom and hold the logo and it'll flash. You back away and tell the drummer to go to town, and it auto shades and rolls off the microphone for you.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
They've got another one that has the tube built directly into the microphone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With the preamp is still there. You
and
know,
it
it's
glows,
off to the side.
and you can see it
it
glow,
glows.
right? Yeah, it's awesome.
It's encased in a I want to say it's graphene and glass. Keep the EMF from, you know, coming out of the tube capsule there and creating havoc. But it's an insane mic. They've got a couple of them in the sub-zero floor range, which is incredible. But I think my favorite has to be the kick mic for live audio, a dual element kick mic.
What drew you to them 5 years ago?
I think it was originally build quality, you know. Everything is CNC milled, I mean, you can knock the tar out of their MTP 440. It's like a 57 almost. It's kind of the same idea, except for the entire thing is either cast or CNC milled. And I mean, just like this, you can use it as a hammer and it wouldn't care.
Were you looking for a different type of sound, or were you looking for a different build quality? I mean, you know, there are the standards, like you said, there's Shure, Sennheiser, and whatever. Was it just like, I want to be kind of different, and you stumbled upon them, or someone showed you them, or what?
A buddy of mine showed these to me. It was a buddy named Gino Scarum. I actually met him while he was touring with Zito, and that's how I met Zito. I was mixing a young act named Alison Park, and we were opening for the Plain White Tees, and that's how I met those fellas. But Gino was coming by Dallas on a Warped tour, and I went up there. He's like, man, you've got to check out these microphones, you know? And so I went up there and I listened to the show, and I was like, man, he had just an incredible attack to the kick, and the tightness was there. And so, you know, he pulled me to the side, showed me it's called the DTP Pro Kit. It's a drum kit case, and it comes with 3 of their tom mics, the Rex kick mic, the 440 snare mic, and some 340 pencils. And yeah, I mean, the build quality alone sold me, but listening to that show, I was like, man, I've got to get a hold of some of these. And from there, you know, just work back through some channels, and here we are.
Nice, man. All right. We're going to leave this on one last question.
Okay.
You ready? If you could sit down with today, if you could sit down with that teacher that you passed in the hallway who said, what do you love to do at home? And you gave her your response about, you know, playing with audio and stuff like that. And she said, well, that's what you should go do. If you could take her to lunch or coffee, whatever, today, what would you tell her?
Well, I guess I would say, you know, thanks for pointing me in the right direction, because, I mean, there's way too many people that are crazy talented in the world, and they're never pointed in the right direction. Way too many people these days get caught up in the, I've got to pay bills. I've got to go, you know, work for Home Depot, you know, clock that time, pay my bills. And I get it. But on the other side of that, do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life, you know? And that's what she showed me as a really young person was, you know, well, what do you love to do at home? Cool. Go do that. And, yeah, I would just say thank you. Thank you for pointing me in that direction, and also giving me the, I guess the business attitude of it, you know, well, you love to do that, then go make it you know? And, that's something that I preach to young folks constantly is, sure, you know, go to school, do what you want to do, but is it really something that you enjoy? Because, there's always a way to make money doing what you enjoy to do. Mm-hmm. There's no sense in waking up and hating what you got to do that day. You know, sometimes, you know, you'll be on a tour and you wake up and you're like, man, I shut that door 3 hours ago. I don't want to open it again. You know, sure. Every single roadie listening to this has had that moment in their bunk to where you're like, man, I don't think I can do this today. I don't think I can get up and do this. Whenever I was younger, I legitimately don't know what got me out of that bed, but I know now that I'm older, it's my kids. You know, the thought of letting my family down gets me out of bed.
Yep. Yeah, you know, and I think one of my favorite parts about how she asked you that question was, what is it you like to do at home? Because that is a very particular sort of mindset, you know, when you're tinkering in your basement or your playroom or whatever it is, you know, your little space, you get lost for hours, whether it's playing guitar or taking the VCR apart or trying to put it back together, whatever it is, stitching, sewing, you know. And when you lose that time because of the thing that you love, then you know you're hooked, right?
Yep,
so it's
absolutely.
An interesting way to phrase it. Awesome, my man. Chris, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We'll see you out there.
See you soon.
All right. The audio wizard himself, Mr. Chris Wilson, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate you being on the show, folks. Don't forget, 20% off when you head over to ShowProBeardCo.com. Use that code ROADIE. Guys, stay tuned next week. Episode number 127. We've got front of house engineer and monitor engineer Grace Roysa. During the week, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcast, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. Send me a note because you know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, you all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.